In the first two parts of acid-base balance, we have seen that every body fluid, whether it is intracellular fluid or interstitial fluid or plasma, has got a certain pH, and this pH is maintained within a very narrow normal range. A departure from normal, if the pH moves away from normal, can disturb the functioning of cells, tissues, and organs. But this normal pH is continuously under threat. Acids and bases are formed continuously in our body. Acids and bases enter from outside in the form of food and beverages, and there is continuous loss of acids and bases from the body. And any of these processes can become abnormal. The formation of acids and bases can become abnormal. The entry of acids and bases can become abnormal, or loss of acids and bases can become abnormal. And when any of these processes becomes abnormal, it will disturb the pH of the body fluids. And a change in pH will affect a number of biomolecules which are sensitive to changes in pH. So the functioning of these biomolecules will be disturbed. And this will disturb the functioning of cells, tissues, and organs, and a disease will result. But this is prevented, a change in pH is prevented by a number of mechanisms which we have got for regulating the pH of body fluids and for maintaining the normal pH of body fluids. And the major mechanisms for regulation of pH or for maintenance of pH are chemical buffering, respiratory regulation, and renal regulation. In part 2 of acid-base balance, we have seen the role of chemical buffers. Chemical buffers are the first line of defense against any threat to maintenance of pH. The chemical buffers act instantly. They act within seconds to minutes, and they can neutralize acids as well as bases so as to maintain the normal pH. In this video, we are going to see the role of the respiratory mechanism and the renal mechanism in regulating the pH of body fluids. We will first look at the role of respiratory mechanism in regulating the pH of body fluids. We have seen that carbonic acid is the major end product of metabolism in the form of carbon dioxide. When nutrients like carbohydrates, fatty acids, and amino acids are oxidized, their carbon atoms are oxidized to carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide reacts with water to form carbonic acid. So, a large amount of carbonic acid is produced every day from oxidation of carbohydrates, lipids, and amino acids. And this carbonic acid has the potential of disturbing the pH. The respiratory mechanism regulates the elimination of carbonic acid from the lungs in such a way that the pH of the body fluids doesn't change. The purpose of respiratory regulation is to maintain the ratio of bicarbonate to carbonic acids. We have seen that bicarbonate carbonic acid buffer is the major buffer of extracellular fluids. The two components of this buffer are bicarbonate and carbonic acids. The respiratory mechanism cannot affect the amount of bicarbonate, but it can regulate the amount of or concentration of carbonic acid in plasma. The respiratory mechanism regulates the elimination of carbonic acid from the lungs in such a way that the ratio of bicarbonate to carbonic acid remains normal so that the pH of plasma will remain normal. Respiratory buffering is not as quick as chemical buffering. It occurs over a period of minutes to hours. The respiratory center in medulla is sensitive to changes in pH of blood, PCO2 of blood, and PO2 of blood. So if there is any change in pH, any change in PCO2, or any change in PO2 of blood, the respiratory center will respond to it. The respiratory center receives information about changes in pH, PCO2, and PO2 of blood from chemoreceptors. These chemoreceptors are located in the aortic arch and the carotid sinus, and the chemoreceptors can perceive changes in pH of blood, PCO2 of blood, and PO2 of blood, and they transmit this information to the respiratory center, and respiratory center then regulates the rate of respiration and depth of respiration. A change in pH is the most important stimulant of the respiratory center. A decrease in pH of blood stimulates the respiratory center. And when respiratory center is stimulated, it will increase the rate and depth of respiration. There will be hyperventilation. Hyperventilation will result in increased elimination of carbon dioxide from the lungs. A decrease in pH generally occurs when there is increase in carbonic acid concentration in plasma, and when there is hyperventilation, more carbon dioxide is eliminated from the lungs, and this will decrease the concentration of carbonic acid in plasma. And when the concentration of carbonic acid decreases, the pH will rise. And this hyperventilation will continue until the ratio of bicarbonate to carbonic acid in plasma becomes normal. The respiratory center can also be stimulated by a rise in PCO2 and by marked anoxia or anoxemia, but the effects of changes in PCO2 and PO2 are not as strong as a change in pH of the blood. So, the respiratory mechanism tries to maintain the ratio of bicarbonate to carbonic acid in blood. And as we have seen, as long as the ratio is 20:1, the ratio of bicarbonate to carbonic acid, the pH will be maintained at 7.4. So whenever there is any change in the concentration of carbonic acids, the respiratory mechanism comes into play. The respiratory mechanism cannot alter the concentration of bicarbonate in plasma, but it can alter the concentration of carbonic acids by increasing or decreasing the rate and depth of respiration. So if bicarbonate concentration changes for any reason, the respiratory mechanism will alter the elimination of carbonic acid from the lungs in such a way that the ratio of bicarbonate to carbonic acid is restored. The third mechanism is renal regulation. We have seen that large amounts of volatile and non-volatile acids are produced in the body every day. The daily production of hydrogen ions in the form of volatile acids is about 15,000 milliequivalents per day, and the daily production of hydrogen ions in the form of non-volatile acids is about 75 milliequivalents every day. The major volatile acid is carbonic acid. and a large amount of carbonic acid is formed every day. This carbonic acid is eliminated by the respiratory mechanism, and the respiratory mechanism can increase or decrease the elimination of carbonic acid in such a way that the pH of the body fluids is maintained. The renal mechanism takes care of the non-volatile acids, the hydrogen ions which are present in the form of non-volatile acids are taken care of by the kidneys. As we have seen, 75 milliequivalents of non-volatile acids are formed every day on an average diet. And these acids include some organic acids and some inorganic acids. Organic acids like lactic acid, pyruvic acid, citric acid, etc. And inorganic acids that dissociate to form phosphate, sulfate, etc. These acids are eliminated by the kidneys. If they are not eliminated, the pH of the blood will become acidic. The kidneys prevent this decrease in pH by excreting the hydrogen ions in urine. So the hydrogen ions present in non-volatile acids are excreted by the kidneys in urine, and at the same time bicarbonate is returned to blood. When blood is filtered in kidneys in glomeruli, all the bicarbonate that is present in plasma enters the glomerular filtrate. If it is not reabsorbed and not returned to blood, there will be loss of bicarbonate in urine, and one of the components of the bicarbonate carbonic acid buffer will be lost. So kidneys prevent this loss by returning bicarbonate from glomerular filtrate to blood and at the same time excreting hydrogen ions in urine. The pH of blood, as we have seen, is 7.4, which is slightly basic. The pH of glomerular filtrate is also the same, 7.4. But the pH of normal urine is commonly acidic. And this happens, that is, the conversion of basic glomerular filtrate into acidic urine occurs because of secretion of hydrogen ions by the renal tubules. The renal tubules secrete hydrogen ions into the lumen, and this secretion of hydrogen ions acidifies the urine. The renal mechanism excretes the acids or the hydrogen ions by three mechanisms. One mechanism is reabsorption of bicarbonate accompanied by secretion of hydrogen ions. The second mechanism is acidification of monohydrogen phosphate. Monohydrogen phosphate is converted into dihydrogen phosphate. And the third mechanism is secretion of ammonia. The ammonia combines with hydrogen ions to form ammonium ions. So the loss of hydrogen ions occur in association with ammonia. The first mechanism is reabsorption of bicarbonate. When blood is filtered in the glomeruli, all the bicarbonate that is present in blood enters the glomerular filtrate. About 180 liters of glomerular filtrate is formed every day, and this contains more than 4,000 milliequivalents of bicarbonate. If this bicarbonate is lost in urine, if it is not reabsorbed, it will be a major drain on alkali reserve. And this will deplete the major chemical buffer of the extracellular fluid, especially plasma. We have seen that the major buffer in plasma and extracellular fluids is bicarbonate carbonic acid. The two components of this buffer are bicarbonate and carbonic acid. So if more than 4,000 milliequivalents of bicarbonate is lost in urine, the bicarbonate carbonic acid buffer system will lose one of its components, and this main chemical buffer of plasma will be depleted. But this loss of bicarbonate in urine is prevented by tubular reabsorption of bicarbonate. The renal tubules reabsorb bicarbonate from the glomerular filtrate. This bicarbonate first enters the tubular cell and then it is released into plasma. And all the bicarbonate that has been filtered in glomeruli is reabsorbed completely in proximal convoluted tubules. This process is also known as tubular reclamation of bicarbonate. The bicarbonate present in the glomerular filtrate is reclaimed by the renal tubules and it is returned to the renal tubular cells. Have got the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. This enzyme converts water and carbon dioxide into carbonic acid. Carbonic acid dissociates into a hydrogen ion and a bicarbonate ion. The hydrogen ion is secreted by the tubular cell into the lumen of the tubule. The hydrogen ion which has entered the tubular lumen reacts with sodium bicarbonate present in the lumen. This sodium bicarbonate has come from plasma. When blood is filtered in the glomeruli, all the sodium bicarbonate which is present in plasma enters the glomerular filtrate, and this sodium bicarbonate now reacts with the hydrogen ion. A sodium ion is released from sodium bicarbonate and its place is taken up by a hydrogen ion. So sodium bicarbonate is now converted into carbonic acid, and the sodium ion which is released from sodium bicarbonate leaves the tubular lumen and it enters the tubular cell. So there is an exchange of hydrogen ion and sodium ion between tubular cell and tubular lumen. A sodium ion moves from the tubular cell into the tubular lumen, and a sodium ion moves from the tubular lumen into the tubular cell. And this transmembrane movement or exchange of hydrogen ions and sodium ions is facilitated by a protein known as sodium hydrogen exchanger, which is present in the cell membrane of the tubular cell on the luminal side of the cell. The sodium ion which has entered the tubular cell is then pumped into the blood capillaries by an enzyme sodium potassium ATPase associated with the cell membrane on the contraluminal side. And this sodium ion is accompanied by a bicarbonate ion. So one sodium ion and one bicarbonate ion move from the tubular cell into the capillaries or into blood. We have a tubular cell here. This is a cell of proximal convoluted tubule. On one side of this cell is a blood capillary. On the other side, there is lumen of the tubule. So glomerular filtrate, which has been formed in the kidney, is present in the lumen of the tubule, and we can call it tubular fluid now. And this tubular fluid contains sodium bicarbonate. This sodium bicarbonate has come from plasma. When blood is filtered in the glomeruli, the sodium bicarbonate has entered the tubular fluids. The tubular cell contains the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. Carbonic anhydrase catalyzes the reaction between water and carbon dioxide, forming carbonic acid. Carbonic acid dissociates into an H ion and a bicarbonate ion. The H ion leaves the tubular cell and it enters the tubular fluid where it reacts with sodium bicarbonate. The sodium ion is released from sodium bicarbonate. This is the sodium ion, and the sodium ion is replaced by the hydrogen ion. So sodium bicarbonate is now converted into carbonic acid, which will break up into carbon dioxide and water, and the sodium ion will enter the tubular cell. So we can say that there is an exchange between this hydrogen ion and this sodium ion. The hydrogen ion has entered the tubular fluid from tubular cell, and sodium ion has entered the tubular cell from tubular fluid. This sodium ion will now leave the tubular cell on the opposite side, on the contraluminal side into the blood capillary, and this is accompanied by a bicarbonate ion from tubular cell into the blood. So the net result is that this sodium bicarbonate, which was present in the tubular fluid, has now entered the blood capillary. All the bicarbonates present in tubular fluid is reabsorbed by the proximal convoluted tubules, and it is returned to blood. The tubular fluid has now reached the distal convoluted tubules, but all the hydrogen ions that need to be secreted into tubular fluid have not been secreted. So hydrogen ions are still to be secreted into tubular fluid, and this secretion proceeds against monohydrogen phosphate or disodium monohydrogen phosphate in the distal convoluted tubules. Hydrogen ions are formed in the distal convoluted tubules in the same way as in proximal convoluted tubules from carbonic acid. These hydrogen ions are secreted by the tubular cells into the lumen, and they react with disodium monohydrogen phosphate present in the lumen. Now, a sodium ion is released from disodium monohydrogen phosphate, and its place is taken up by a hydrogen ion. So disodium monohydrogen phosphate is converted into sodium dihydrogen phosphate, and a sodium ion is released. Sodium ion is released from disodium monohydrogen phosphate. This sodium ion released from disodium monohydrogen phosphate enters the tubular cell again in exchange for the hydrogen ion. So one hydrogen ion has shifted from the tubular cell into the lumen, and one sodium ion has shifted from the lumen of the tubule into the tubular cell. And then again, this sodium ion along with the bicarbonate ion are shifted from the tubular cell into the capillaries. So the net result is more addition of sodium and bicarbonate to blood from the distal convoluted tubules. So here we have a tubular cell, a cell of distal convoluted tubule. There is a blood capillary on this side, and this is the lumen of the tubule in which disodium monohydrogen phosphate is present. So as usual, this carbonic anhydrase present in this cell catalyzes the reaction between water and carbon dioxide. Carbonic acid is formed. Carbonic acid dissociates into H ion and bicarbonate ion. H ion enters the tubular fluid. It is secreted from the tubular cell into the tubular fluid where it reacts with disodium monohydrogen phosphate. Hydrogen ion is added and sodium ion is released from disodium monohydrogen phosphate, which is converted into sodium dihydrogen phosphate, and the sodium ion which is released enters the tubular cell, and this sodium ion and this bicarbonate ion enter the blood capillaries. So the net result is disodium monohydrogen phosphate is converted into sodium dihydrogen phosphate, and this conversion acidifies the urine because dihydrogen phosphate is acidic. In this way, Distal convoluted tubules convert the monohydrogen phosphates present in the tubular fluid into dihydrogen phosphate, and this causes acidification of urine. The acidity which is due to dihydrogen phosphate is known as titratable acidity, and we can measure this titratable acidity. Titratable acidity of urine can be measured by titrating the urine with sodium hydroxide to a pH of 7.4. The third mechanism used by kidneys for secretion of hydrogen ions is related to secretion of ammonia. We have seen that in distal convoluted tubules, sodium ions are reabsorbed from the tubular fluid in exchange for hydrogen ions. But sodium ions can also be reabsorbed against ammonium ions. The ammonium ions present in the tubular fluid can be exchanged for sodium ions. Ammonia is formed in the tubular cells by deamination of amino acids. A major source is deamination of glutamine. When glutamine is deaminated, it is converted into glutamate and free ammonia. So ammonia is formed in the distal convoluted tubules, the cells of the distal convoluted tubules, by deamination of amino acids. This ammonia diffuses into the tubular lumen, and a hydrogen ion which is secreted by distal convoluted tubules, as we have seen earlier, the hydrogen ion released from carbonic acid. This hydrogen ion is also secreted by the tubular cells into the lumen, and this hydrogen ion reacts with or combines with ammonia to form an ammonium ion. And this ammonium ion reacts with sodium chloride present in the tubular lumen. Sodium chloride is converted into ammonium chloride, and sodium ion is released. And this sodium ion released from sodium chloride is reabsorbed by the tubular cell. So here we have a tubular cell of distal convoluted tubule. This is a blood capillary. On the other side, there is lumen of the tubule containing tubular fluids. The enzyme glutaminase acts on glutamine, converts glutamine into glutamate and ammonia. Ammonia diffuses into the lumen of the tubule. Carbonic anhydrase, as usual, converts carbon dioxide and water into carbonic acid. Carbonic acid dissociates into H ion and bicarbonate ion. H ion is secreted into the lumen of the tubule, and this H ion combines with ammonia to form an ammonium ion. The ammonium ion reacts with sodium chloride present in the tubular fluid. Sodium chloride is converted into ammonium chloride, and a sodium ion is released, and this sodium ion enters the tubular cell. So this sodium ion, along with the bicarbonate ion released from carbonic acid, leave the tubular cell and they enter the blood capillary. In this way, more sodium bicarbonate is returned to blood and more hydrogen ions are secreted into the tubular fluid. Renal regulation responds to changes in the pH of blood. If there is a decrease or increase in the pH of blood, the kidneys increase or decrease the secretion of H ions accordingly. If there is a decrease in the pH, the kidneys increase the secretion of hydrogen ions, so there is greater acidification of urine. If there is an increase in pH, the kidneys decrease the secretion of hydrogen ions, so there is less acidification of urine. The purpose of this increase or decrease in acidification is to restore the pH of the blood. The renal buffering occurs over a period of hours to days. So this process is slow, but it is very thorough. If there is any deficiency in chemical buffering or respiratory buffering, this is corrected by the renal regulation. We will look at the disorders of acid-base balance in the next video. Thank you.